Cool. Thank you all so much for having me today. I appreciate it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about virtual recruiting and as well as like networking during this time, but also bringing it back to when we are hopefully in person. So I'll be talking a little bit about all of that today and as well as some of our opportunities and upcoming events we have. So I will get started. First, let's talk a little bit about what is networking and is using them wisely. So during this time, it can be hard to network and it can be hard to make connections, but that is the beauty of things like Zoom and some of these events that we're able to still connect one-on-one. So networking is really important to make that connection with companies and figure out maybe like who you'd want to work with and who you get along with the best. So these are some things that are really important, especially still in the virtual world, and to still try to continue to do. And networking can be either like in a formal networking setting or it can be informal, and it can be just a way to connect and meet people. And so why should we network? So obviously networking is, like I said, how you meet people that you possibly want to work with, and as well as can help you get a job later on in the future. That's how I got a lot of internships in college, was through networking and through people that I knew. I was introduced to other people through those people. So it's really all about making those connections and helping your future in the later on once you start your career. And it's a great way to, as I said, invest in your future, help ensure your success, and meet new people, even like networking with things like joining a club, like how you are all in one right now in your club meetings, and meeting new people on campus and connecting that way as well is also a great way to use networking. And it's also pretty fun. It's, I would say it's probably more fun in person, but it still can be fun over online. And there's still plenty of fun ways to network with people virtually and play games and things like that. Like we do happy hour networking done virtually. So that's always a good possibility too, as well. And so some of the things that could stop us from networking is, maybe you feel a little uncomfortable, or you don't know how to network with people, or it's like you have better things to do. And especially during this time, I know there's a lot of virtual fatigue. I know a lot of people are feeling it student wise, and we're feeling it, all of the professionals. So it specifically during this virtual setting, it can be hard, and it can be something like, oh, I have all these classes that I'm already sitting in virtually, and I have all these like presentations and things that I'm sitting in virtually. So it can be a lot and can be an extra thing to put on your plate virtually. So that is something that for me, I have found it great to step away from my computer at least like 5 times a day and go on either like a little walk or just step away from my computer, even my phone screen, not having anything with screen related for at least like an hour a day helps a lot, and it helps you be able to get back on the computer screen and attend networking events or even just attend events in general. So finding that balance of stepping away from your screen and trying to be away from that virtual aspect for just a little bit will help with like all of the virtual fatigue and being able to have the energy to attend like a virtual networking event or even just a virtual event or virtual presentation. So finding that balance is something that a lot of us have probably been working on for the past almost year now. And so it's something that hopefully we will be able to be in person. And once we are in person, the networking will be easier and it will be different because you get that feeling when you are in a room full of people and that energy, and something that you can still get online too as well. If events, it's a networking event and you're playing like a fun game or a fun question game and you're talking to professionals, it can still bring that energy and excitement to you as well. So 3 steps to successful networking. This can work either in person or virtually. So works for any setting. The first step, if this will go, there we go. The first step is planning, the second is attend, and then the third is follow up. So the first step of planning is really just, okay, set your goals of what events you want to attend and how many events you want to attend. That's another part of the virtual fatigue. Like maybe you don't want to attend 20 some events virtually. So when you're setting your goals of what you want to do when you are networking or when you are in the recruiting process, it's important to set your goals of what you want to do, what specific events sound interesting to you, and plan that out so you aren't getting too stressed with all these different events. And then just knowing the firm basics before you attend the event. So that's maybe going on the website and seeing, what does this company do and what should I know about this company before attending this event. And then utilizing our APQ guide. This is audience, purpose, and questions. So audience is, research the industries, as I said, the company and key people in attendance. And for that one, you might not always know who is attending an event, which is okay, but just maybe know some of like the professionals that might be attending. Like for us, we have audit professionals, tax professionals, and advisory professionals. So what you could do is research those different practices before the event and kind of get an idea of, if you are going to this event to look for a certain job or an internship, you'll know, okay, I'm looking for an audit internship, so I want to talk to audit professionals. So that's always a good thing to do before. And if you don't know maybe what you want to do yet and you're kind of just going to talk to everyone and see maybe what you'd want to do, that's okay. Just maybe like if before an event, do a little bit of research just so you know maybe the differences between the practices or the difference between the positions that company is offering, just so you have a basic idea of what you're doing and that you don't go into an event saying, oh, so what do you guys do again? Like what do you do? So that's always a good thing, good practice to have a little bit of an idea of what a company does. And the next is purpose. So think about your purpose for attending a particular event. So you could use this as maybe, how did I get invited to this? Why am I attending? What do I hope to gain from this? So if you're attending an event for a networking piece and you're thinking, okay, I want to get an internship out of this event, that really helps you to go in and network with the right people to hope that you can get an internship idea or even find out what internships they have available. So that is a really good way to go into an event knowing what you're exactly looking for. And then questions. Think of any questions that are specific to the professionals that might be there, the recruiters, and have just those in on hand. I know it's always weird when it's in a virtual setting or even an in-person setting when you're like, oh, do you have any questions for me? And someone just sits there like, oh, I actually don't know if I have questions. So it's always good to maybe have some questions in advance or something that you're curious about that you want to get more information on, and something that you can ask to anyone. And something, you could always just ask random questions, but you also want to make sure that those questions are helpful to you and something that will help you in the long run. And the next step is to attend the event. So once you plan, you have your questions, you know why you're going to this event, and you have done some research on the company, then you attend. And while you attend these events, you kind of ask, like, what are we attending? So remember that you're always giving a good first impression, and it's always good to, even if you maybe have met someone before and you're attending another event, that they're still there. There's still other people that you might have not met. So you're always making a first impression when you come to either like virtual events or in-person events. You're always making that impression. So and some of these events that you could be attending are career fairs or things like this, meetings and information sessions or one-on-one meetings and even firm socials and other events. So and I know it's a little different in the virtual environment where, not everyone's going to see you and not everyone's going to particularly talk to you one on one because it is through a screen and we can't always see what is going on. But it always carries over either way, like in person or virtual. You're always making that first impression. And then, here's some what to do's. And this is geared towards virtual, but it also can be used in person as well. So for us virtually, now we have to test out our devices. And I already exampled that my computer was having a mental breakdown earlier. So it's always good to test your computer and your devices, whatever device the firm or company might be using, making sure you can log into the event and all of that good stuff. And introductions. It's harder to do this virtually, and I feel like I'm always wanting to introduce myself and be out there and make sure people see me and that I'm making good eye contact. And that's my big thing is making good eye contact. But it can be harder to do that through a screen, but it's still something you can do of having your camera on and engaging and smiling and having a positive attitude and trying to still make that eye contact of try to look at the person who's talking to you or even just when the presenter's talking, just trying to put your focus on that, which will help with having that online presence. And always, the second one is in person or virtual. Avoid hot topics. That could be politics or things like happening in the news, stuff like that. That's usually things to avoid at networking events and just like interviews in general. Those are topics that we would like to stray away from. And just being positive and interesting throughout the discussion. And if maybe you don't have a question, you could listen to other people's questions and maybe you'll hear something that you'll want to ask even more about. Or if you just want to show that you're listening, just being engaging through the screen and asking those like good questions. Sometimes we will get questions that are like, okay, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to ask, but it's always good to think a little bit about what you were trying to ask. And um, it's okay if you have to like think about it a little bit and just to get the question and make sure you understand what you're asking. And then also thanking someone and requesting contact information. This is always a good best practice. In person, we ask for business cards, and that's a good way to follow up with someone, which I'll go into a little bit later. But it's a good way to just thank someone for their time or just letting them know that you were interested or you wanted to talk further. It's always a good best practice. And then somewhat not to do. Like I mentioned earlier, what does your company do? Well, it's like we could go in about what our company does, but it's always good to ask those things or research those things before and find out a little information before you ask, so what do you guys do again? And don't monopolize time. I know it's definitely harder even now virtually to make sure you're being sensitive to the professional's time or the recruiter's time and that they're trying to meet as many people as they can and to maybe just say we can continue this conversation on later, just wanted to ask a couple of these questions right now, and just making sure you're being aware of the time and the event and all of that good stuff. And then also, this is one that we actually get a lot and it's always awkward, but making sure to mute your mic during a large presentation and limit the background noise because we could be saying it multiple times when people enter. Just so you know, please make sure to mute your mic and someone could still be unmuted for 5 minutes. And it's like, okay, we can't start until this person mutes their mic. So always a good best practice, which you all sound like you're pros at it now, which is fantastic because I'm sure you've been used to muting your mic now. And even like I would say for what not to do in person would be when you're at an event, I would say not to like interrupt people. I think that's the thing that would compare to the in person of making sure you're not interrupting conversations, or if someone's giving a presentation to not be chatting on the side or things like that. So that can carry on either way, virtually or in person. And then the last would be to follow up. I think following up is very important with any events, networking, an interview, all of that. So this is a really good part of attending because it leaves that lasting impression of who you are, and just following up in a timely manner, and whether that's just sending a thank you email and they may not always respond, which is okay. Unless you ask a question, someone might not respond to you, but don't freak out that they're not responding to your follow-up email. It's okay to just send a thank you so much for talking to me today, I appreciated it. And just making sure you're checking your spelling and your grammar. That's always something that I know I look at for emails, or even in resumes and stuff like that. We look at spelling and grammar and that you have that attention to detail. So just making sure that you are checking for those things is important. And then personalizing the message. So this could be bringing up something that you discussed, saying like, thank you so much. I appreciate hearing about what you do in your day-to-day work. And then following up with the question, or following up with, can we meet up again to chat, or something like that. So that's a good way to show that you were engaged in the conversation with that person, or you were engaged with a presentation and you wanted to know information, or if you just wanted to say thank you. Either way, it's a good best practice to follow up if you can. And if that's something that, if you're interested in that company and interested in maybe working there, that's a good best practice too. And some ways you can follow up is, one thing I'll say for the voice message, we get a lot of mailbox is full type things. So that's something that I recommend. So they might not always call and you don't have to one to thank them, but something that we always do, if like for recruiters especially, we might call you, and if your voicemail is not, we're not able to leave a message or we can't get a hold of you. So that's one thing to check to make sure that you have a voicemail greeting and that your mailbox isn't full. And because sometimes we might follow up with you after an event or something like that. So that's always good to make sure that your voicemail is properly set up. And then in terms of your email, like I mentioned before, checking for spelling and grammar is always a good best practice. Even for schoolwork, I'm sure you all know that is checking your spelling and your grammar is something you always do at like an end of an essay and stuff like that. So taking that on to writing an email to a professional or recruiter is good to keep that in mind. And as well of the no shorthands like LOL, OMG, all of those. We can use those in texting and on social media, but in an email to professional might not be the greatest way to use those terms. And then just keeping a professional tone. So that goes along with not using LOL or ha 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 or OMG. So those are always good things too. And sometimes I know we like to throw in maybe like a smiley face or something like that. I will do that sometimes to candidates when I'm emailing them. So it's okay if a professional or recruiter sends that to you, but maybe not the best to put in your original email, and just try to keep it professional. And then if maybe they respond back to you with a smiley face, you could respond back with a smiley face, and just kind of feeling out the tone from the professional, the person you are emailing. So, what has changed from person to virtual? Really not much. And a lot of these tips you can take back once we do go back in person and we can attend events again. So it's all good information to have. And for the most part, not really many things have changed that much. So some of the things that might have changed is the following, and then also staying the same of always following through. That's always stayed the same. That's never changed. And joining professional student organizations, which you are all in right now. So that is great. And getting to know teachers, professionals, professors, that stays the same. And preparation too. So we prepare for things before a virtual event and an in-person event. So really not as much has changed from that. And then just being positive and smiling. That's something that will never change. And I hope that you still are smiling and being positive, even in your virtual classes or when you attend your club meetings. Just trying to keep that positivity will help in the long run of feeling like it's still fun to attend these things. And the virtual fatigue is, it may be creeping up on you, but you're trying to keep positive and push through, because I know it's been hard with a lot of this stuff being virtual and having to always be on a screen. So finding that balance and continuing to be positive will help too. And some things that have changed is, I mean, I don't think that's actually changed, but obviously checking your tech, like I said, that's something that has changed because before we didn't have to do that. And participation has changed a little bit. So that has changed with obviously knowing what events you want to attend and how you can attend so many events virtually. So that has been probably a decrease for you and something that you might need to evaluate more of, do I want to participate in these events or these events? So that could be a little bit different and look different for you now, especially since you're not on campus and you can't go from maybe like this room to this room. So it can be different with that sense of the virtual aspect. And of course, like I mentioned, managing your virtual fatigue, always an important one, and embracing the chaos. I think we're all at this point probably so much better at doing this whole virtual thing. And I know in the beginning it was seemed a little chaotic. There's always kids running in the background or pets and all of that stuff. So I think there's a lot of that we've all embraced and kind of gotten used to throughout this past almost year of this virtual setting. So it's embracing it, managing your virtual fatigue, I think are some of the biggest ones. And companies are aware of virtual fatigue and we know that it's a real issue. So we are trying our best to be respectful and make sure that we aren't pushing on so many things to you. So that's something that we know, and just that you'll have to make sure you're aware of for yourself as well. So that's a little bit about networking and some tips and tricks. And so now I'm going to go into a little bit of our opportunities at KPMG that could be of interest to you all. So first, I wanted to go a little bit over our recruiting timeline. Our applications are actually open now. They opened January 25th, and those are all located on our KPMG campus website. So those are, you can just search on Google KPMG campus or kpmgcampus.com, and it will pop up just that way. And then our deadline to submit applications, all applications, is March 1st. And that's a very strict deadline. And with that, there are two parts to our application that may take a little bit longer, which is why we recommend setting aside 30 minutes or so to complete the application. But we have the actual application, and then we have Pymetrics, which is a series of gamified tests that just show how you might work compared to some of our current employees. And it's not anything that you need to study for or anything like that. They're just little games. They're actually kind of fun to play, and they're not anything crazy, but it's just another part of our application that we recommend setting some time aside to complete. And then around that, candidates are notified whether they are selected to interview around March 12th. It depends on the office as well. And then March 22nd to April 2nd is around when interviews will happen, and those will take place by office and practice. So whichever office you apply to, it may be a different date than another office. So it just depends, but it will be communicated to you directly. And then after that, you'll hear whether you were given an offer, and then we'll have fun sell events after that. So that's a little overview of the timeline. And some of our current opportunities is one is our Embark Scholars program, and this is posted on our KPMG website. So you can just search Embark Scholars and they will pop up. This is a multi-year paid internship program, and it helps develop high-performing students of color into leaders and provides overall education about the professional services industry. So this is actually so this could actually be, I think you can be a freshman and apply to this, or a sophomore. So you can be, because usually we hire juniors into internships. So for this specific program, it's more of like a learning program. So if you're not quite sure if what industry or what service you'd want to go into, this is a good opportunity to explore the different ones, because you'll have 2 internships before you start working full time, 2 to 3 internships before you start working full time. So this will really give you that feel of which one would interest you the most. And you must be pursuing accounting, finance, engineering, IT, or other equivalent degree. So for this, just recommend going and looking at the job description to see if you would match it. And then you must identify as part of a traditionally underrepresented racial and ethnic minority within the professional services industry. And then with the graduation dates, like I mentioned, you could be a freshman, a sophomore. We usually recruit freshmen, sophomore for this program so they have more summer internships with experience. And this allows you to explore audit, tax, advisory, and business process groups. So that's all of the groups within our company, which is great. So you get to rotate through the different practices and work with different teams to see what interests you. And then you get to decide which practice you would like to move into after your exploratory internship. So great program, highly recommend it. And if you have any questions about it, I'll put my email in the chat as well to answer any of those. And then our next program is our Rise Leadership Institute. And we held this actually virtually last year for the first time. And we added on some actually more virtual support that continues on through the year after the program. So this is usually a multi-day leadership program. It usually takes place in Hollywood when it's in person. Hopefully we'll be able to do it in person again soon, but it still was a great virtual event, and it just provides career development and networking opportunities, and just shows how like KPMG engages and supports inclusivity in the workplace. And this is actually more open. This we recently just changed to, you're eligible if you're a person of color, a veteran, person with disability, part of LGBTQ, and or a first generation college student. So we've had some great people attend this program. They've all had great things to say about it, and you get this support throughout the year as well from our professionals and help you grow your career and develop too as well. And this is open to freshmen or sophomores pursuing accounting, finance, engineering, or IT. Because at the end of the day, we do want to make sure that you can get a job with us and that you'll be able to stay with us once you do this program as well. And then just a little bit of the remaining spring 2021 KPMG events. So we have a couple of national sessions, our careers in tax at KPMG together with Equipo, and that is actually together with Equipo is put on by our Hispanic Business Resource Group, and they are doing a panel on just people from around their group around the nation, because we have one of those groups in pretty much all of our offices. So they are going to be putting on a panel on inclusivity in the workplace and what they do as a BRG. So that will be a great one. And then we have culture at KPMG, and KPMG Ignite is specifically to our Bay Area offices. And this is a program we put on every year. And basically we just go over more of our Rise and Embark Scholars program. And we are doing a panel with some of our BRG members and just focusing on how we support inclusivity in the workplace and how we embrace our culture. So that is a really great event that we do every year. And we are putting that on virtually on February 19th. So good one to attend. And then I have recruiter hours for anyone who wants to drop in. And then we also have an Ace the Interview session, which is a great one if you've never interviewed virtually or just want some tips as well. So you can scan this QR code for more information on these opportunities, as well as to get the registration links for them. I am happy to send those to anyone who is interested in them. And they're all going to be great events, especially together with Equipo. That's going to be a very great event. And KPMG Ignite is always a great one that we put on every year. So feel free to scan this, and I will get in contact with you with opportunities. And that is it from me.
Yay, thank you so much, Jennifer. This presentation was super helpful. I think I always get recruiters message me back with the smiley face, and I never know if it's okay for me to send that back or not. But yeah, this is super, super helpful.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Jennifer before we let you go?
I have a question. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for your
Hi.
presentation. I just wanted to ask, because I know a lot of our members are not business majors as well, but they want to like learn more professionalism, so they're here at our club. So do you have any opportunities that you think KPMG could like offer to other students that aren't business majors as well?
Yeah, in terms of like professionalism, or just like in terms of opportunities, like job opportunities?
Both.
Yeah, so we have, in terms of like presentations and things like that, I think some of our leadership programs, such as Rise Leadership, is a great one, because that one was open to more like engineering, IT, finance. So still some other major types other than business. So there's still that opportunity to be involved in some of those programs, as well as me specifically for Cal Poly. I'm planning on doing a Branding You program, which is a great program for freshmen and sophomore and even juniors too, of how to brand yourself and about professionalism. So those are events that are pretty broad and can be open to all types of majors as well. And something that I can definitely advertise to you as well to join. And I would say that for the most part, for our events, we do look for majors that we hire for, just in terms of like, to hopefully get you an opportunity and have you join the firm. So, but with those, some other events like Branding You, those are great ones that are open to more general majors too.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
For anyone that's interested in applying for, say, the Rise Leadership or the Embark, where would they go to get the application?
Yeah, so for Embark, those are posted on our website, because Embark's technically an internship. So that's posted directly on our KPMG campus website. For Rise, that one is a different link. It's like a registration link. So if you wanted to apply to that, I can put my email in the chat too as well, so that I can send that to anyone who might be interested. But that one is not posted on our website. So good question.
Thank you.
And actually, I'll do that. I'll put my email in right now so I don't forget. Any other
more
questions?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking the time to talk to us. this presentation was super useful. So
Of
yeah,
course.
thank you.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then before we end, we have a little bit of time. Jess or Aurelie, do you want to do pitch LBTR?
Aurelie? Aurelie's the expertise in LBTR. So
You too. Okay, so I guess real quick before the meeting ends, next Friday, the Multicultural Business Program is having their Leadership Beyond the Resume conference, which is a conference that we have every year. We've had it for like the past 4 or 5 years now. And it's just like a good opportunity to get to know, like just to hear different presentations. We have like 4 or 5 different workshops and a keynote speaker. And so it'll be really fun. I hope you guys can all come. You don't have to stay for like the whole time. If you have like class conflicts and stuff, the registration link, you can register for the ones that you're available for. But we really recommend if you can to like attend the whole day because you'll get the most